So here's how I reckon it all went down, right? So there's this meeting at Respawn headquarters, and all the corporates are sitting around a table, and there's this guy up the front, and he's all like, hey, you know how, like, everyone expects the single-player game to be, like, really shit, and we're not going to put any effort into it, and it's just going to tick a box so that we can say that we have a single-player campaign? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, what if we made it, like, good? Why didn't I think of that earlier? And from that, one of the best single-player campaigns I have ever played was born. Just look at moments like this.
That's insane.
I'm incapable of insanity, pilot. Wind, 3 knots, heading 274. Range, 95 meters. Projectile mass, 89 kilograms. Trust me.
Guys, what's up? It's Skill Up here. Today, I wanted to provide a very quick review on the surprisingly amazing Titanfall 2 single-player campaign. I have to say I had extremely low expectations of this stepping into it. No doubt about it, Titanfall 1 was a cool game, but it was a very sort of bro dude kind of game, right? It was very cut from the Call of Duty cloth, which is unsurprising given the fact that its creator, Vince Zampella, was the guy that created Call of Duty as we know it today. Now, don't get me wrong, I actually really enjoy Call of Duty. It's a good game, but the single-player campaigns are very, very phoned-in affairs. Very linear levels, very boring level design, very, very like hoorah bro dude kind of stuff. Not my style at all. I've never particularly enjoyed them in the slightest. So expectations were low. Anyway, downloaded the game, booted it up, thought I better do the single player just for completeness sake, whatever, let's give it a go. And man, I was like completely blown away by this. I feel like it made me think a lot about Halo. Now, I think we all, or many of us, would remember playing the original Halo and Halo 2 and maybe even Halo 3, Reach, ODST. Awesome games, right? Halo 1 in particular was this moment where we were like, whoa, this is a really, really, really good video game. And it was a single-player sci-fi game that didn't necessarily do anything like hugely different, but it did so many things right all at once that it just became this package that was larger than the sum of its parts. I think Titanfall 2 is, for me, the same sort of feeling, right? If you look at the individual components, you're like, you know, boring protagonist, check. Giant robots, check. Sci-fi setting, cool. Wall running, check. But when you combine all of that in the way that Respawn have done it in the single-player campaign, the results are just, like, spectacular. It was so good that I would actually say if you are someone that just likes good games, then you're going to enjoy this. Even if you're not necessarily a fan of shooters, like, it's just a really well-designed video game. And I'm going to take you through the reasons why right now. First up, let's talk technically. I'm not going to talk about graphics because I find it so boring when people do that. Watch YouTube videos. You can decide if it's good or not. I will tell you, though, technically, this game is flawless. Like the load screens, the loading is super fast. I got no frame rate loss. It's just like amazing how well this thing actually runs. So yeah, well done to Respawn on that one. But I will say that there's a really fantastic like artistic congruence to it in the sense that like the world is really consistent. I mean, at certain times you're literally going through like science fiction assembly factories and other times you're out in like, you know, rainforest style locations, but it all ties together really well. Nothing looks like it doesn't belong. And in particular, the design of the Titans and the sort of the allies you're fighting alongside and the enemies that you face is really, really strong. So I think just sort of like the visual package, not the graphics, but just like the visual look and feel of this game is excellent and really, really well executed. I think more than anything else though, the thing that makes Titanfall 2 so great is the confidence with which it acts. You know, it's like, it's totally self-assured. It knows what it is, it knows what it's good at, and rather than trying to sort of pile in heaps of extra stuff that it's not good at, it just focuses on its 2 or 3 core things and does them really, really well. So first up, let's talk about like the movement system, because in my view, that's kind of what defines Titanfall, even more than the Titans themselves. I actually think it's the movement that makes this game so incredible. Things like double jumping and wall riding and sliding and all of those different tools we have available to us that we got in various games, I think have really been perfected in Titanfall 2. Like, I really struggle to imagine how these things could be any better than Titanfall 2 does them. Every single level is going to ask you to do a lot of different platforming, literally running up walls, jumping from place to place, moving platforms so that you can then run across a wall, all sorts of stuff. It's like, I would say 50% of the game is platforming, and it's all awesome platforming. None of it just seems like it's there for the sake of it. None of it is boring. Every single platforming challenge I ever faced was really clever. And in that way, this game really reminded me of Portal. You're definitely going to come up against some really challenging, tricky wall jumping puzzles that are going to ask you to literally travel back and forward in time so that you can leap from one wall to the other, and they exist in different dimensions, and you kind of need to bounce back and forward. It's amazing. Like, it's just so well done and so clever. Like, it actually engages your brain as you're playing it, and I really respect that a lot. It's so good that it kind of makes me want to play the campaign again, because the fluidity of motion that I achieved during the missions is so satisfying that I kind of want to go and relive those moments, or I want to do them again, but like make them perfect. You know what I mean? I want to make the highlight reels where I totally nail that part of the campaign just right. Coming back to Halo, it's like those times where you learn the exact spawn of the enemies and you know exactly where to stand at exactly the right time to be able to speed run through the level. It's the same sort of thing with Titanfall. Like, I literally want to go back and do that. So all of this would not be possible without the incredible level design that Respawn have brought to the table here. Honestly, if you're a fan of Portal or the Talos Principle or Half-Life or any game with good actual level design, then just like play this. As an example, this level here is an assembly plant where all these prefabricated houses are being put together, and you're literally having to jump from platform to platform while these houses are moving from like area of the factory to different area of the factory, and then they turn upside down and they go on angles, and they're literally being assembled while you're inside the houses, and then they get put up on this wall, and you kind of need to like run up this wall, even though it's sort of like it's like you're just looking at the video. I think you kind of get a sense of what it is. It's really unique and just great. Like, it's fantastic. And this is just one example. There are so many levels like this. In particular, a very strong standout level that does involve a time machine where you are sort of moving between two different time periods that have similar but different level design and that ask you to do really interesting things. Just cool stuff. Properly made levels by people who actually really know how to make video games. And that's so clear here. So huge thumbs up on that. Just some of the best level design you will ever see anywhere. There's one last part of the game that I think is really strong, but I'm not going to talk about it yet. Before that, I'm going to talk about the shooter mechanics. And I guess this is actually one part of it that I feel is a little bit on the weak side. Perhaps not weak, just a little bit generic. Sure, it feels really good. It does feel like Call of Duty. It's tight, it's snappy, it's short time to kill. It feels fine, but obviously it's like we've played all of those games before, forever. It doesn't really bring anything new to the table from a shooter mechanics perspective. And in particular, I do find the weapon design to be quite weak. I'd say it's quite generic, in fact. Actually, as I was playing through it, I noted that I actually didn't know which weapon I had in my hand at any point in time. And I love weapons, by the way. Like, weapons is kind of my thing, So they all kind of felt so similar that it was hard to differentiate any of them. I couldn't tell you the difference between an assault rifle or an LMG, realistically. And I would never touch a sniper rifle because it's just so not Titanfall. It's like, sniper rifle is about sitting back and sniping, whereas Titanfall is all about running and gunning and wall climbing and, all that sort of stuff. So from a weapons perspective, don't expect too much. From a shooter game, expect it to be solid, but certainly not breakthrough. It's certainly a passable effort, but I think it's really overshadowed by the fact that you're going to be doing more platforming than you are shooting. So the last really fantastic part of this game is the story of a boy and his robot. The story of this game is really garbage. Don't worry about the story. It really sucks. It's totally generic and forgettable and whatever, but there are some components of it that are really great. So in particular, there are these mercenaries that pop up throughout it, and it's very sort of Borderlands-esque, where they're sort of, each level has a kind of boss at the end, and they're introed in a really cool way. And I mean, they're just like one-dimensional villains that are just sort of taunting you as you progress through the level, and then you fight them, and spoiler alert, you kill them. But they're just cool. They're just well-designed, and they do their job well, and I like them. But the best part, though, is just the banter that you have with your Titan BTs. The story, I won't spoil it for you, but let's just say that you come together in an unexpected fashion and you're forming a bond throughout the campaign. It's very reminiscent of something like Terminator 2. The reason Terminator 2 was such a cool movie was, well, there's a million reasons why it was a cool movie, but one of the best was just because, like, the Terminator doesn't get jokes, he doesn't understand sarcasm, he doesn't understand human idioms, he's just a robot. And obviously John Connor is just full of smack talk, so the two play off each other extremely well.
No, it's different. It's when there's nothing wrong with you, but you're hurt anyways. You get it?
No.
All right, my man!
No problemo.
Give me 5.
But at the core of that is a real bond and loyalty that you can sort of really sort of lean into and appreciate. It's like a friendship on steroids, and it's very much the case here as well. There's plenty of cheeky banter. There's plenty of sort of great moments where you actually really feel for these characters, even though the protagonist, Jack Cooper, is like the most forgettable dude ever. You still find yourself actually caring about him because of the fact that he has this awesome relationship with this giant 40-ton robot that he calls BT. So that is awesome. I really drew tremendous enjoyment from listening to that story unfold. It ends really well in a really satisfying fashion. It's just really great. Like, it's a fantastic game. Now, there's an economics to all of this. There's an economics qualifier, and that is to say that this is not a long game. It's not a single player focused game. It's a multiplayer focused game that has a single player component to it. The campaign you're probably going to be able to burn through in about 6 hours. I think I did a little bit less. I did it in just over one sitting. So would I pay full price for this game if I was not going to play the multiplayer to death? I don't know. I'd probably recommend holding off until it goes on sale, getting it when it's a bit cheaper, and then absolutely purchasing it, because if you're just after good single player experiences, then you cannot go wrong with this one. It is awesome. If, however, you're a bit on the fence with this one, you're thinking, well, am I going to get my money's worth out of it? I'm going to play the multiplayer, I'm going to play a little bit of the single player, then just jump straight in. Absolutely. It's a fantastic cherry on top. If multiplayer was what you're really interested in, and, you know, maybe the single player is going to tip you over the edge, consider yourself tipped. This is just awesome. So do think about that. I don't want to oversell the value of this campaign, but I do want to tell you that as a video game, it is absolutely well constructed and just great, and I just loved it. I'm not going to give it a score because I think that's kind of lame, but I think you can tell from the praise that I've heaped on it that I thought it was excellent. Anyway, guys, let me know what you think about Titanfall below. I'm working through the multiplayer right now. I really enjoy it. However, I have to say I'm struggling to find games on the Oceanic server. Unsure if anyone in the comments below is playing on Oceania, and if you're finding the same sort of thing. I'm finding it almost impossible to find anything other than Bounty, which kind of is disappointing because my favorite mode is actually Pilot on Pilot. So yeah, let me know what you think about that. Let me know if you're playing in America and you're having difficulty finding games as well. But ultimately though, like, we kind of need to support this game. And what I mean is that if we don't support it, we're probably just going to get more shitty Call of Duties and just boring generic stuff forever. This game actually takes some legitimate risks. It really is a very well constructed, very intelligent, very well made single player campaign on top of a really awesome, really fun and very balanced multiplayer game as well that really pushes the envelope on a lot of fronts. So if this doesn't work, I'm going to be really sad, and I think EA are probably going to look at it and think, well, we tried to innovate. Let's go back to something, I don't know, something boring. So let's not let that happen. I really hope you guys do give it a chance and check it out, because I guarantee you will not be disappointed. For now, thank you very much for watching, guys. Leave the video a like if you liked the video. Subscribe. I'm going to be doing a few more videos on Titanfall, but not too many. But I certainly want to cover the multiplayer a little bit. So yeah, take good care, guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.